Helen Thomas always believed journalism was her calling.
I love history, and I knew this would be the place where I could always keep learning.
Thomas, of Lebanese extraction, majored in journalism in college and joined United Press International soon after graduation. She stayed with UPI for 57 years. During the decade before her death, she worked as a political columnist for Hearst newspapers. In 1961, during President John F. Kennedy's administration, Thomas became one of the first women to cover the White House.
Well, it was wonderful, really, because there was great hope with the Kennedy administration. Young people were taking over, and they had great goals.
During 50 years as a White House correspondent, she covered 10 U.S. presidents. In January 2010, in an interview with the Voice of America, she said one of her most memorable assignments was President Richard Nixon's historic visit to China in 1972.
Every reporter in Washington wanted to be on that trip, so I think that the 8 days we spent there was a great eye-opener, and there was a story in everything, what the Chinese ate, how they looked, what they wore, and so forth.
Over her long career, Thomas developed a reputation for asking tough questions. During a presidential news conference in 2006, Thomas asked President George W. Bush to explain why he invaded Iraq.
I'd like to ask you, Mr. President, your decision to invade Iraq has caused the deaths of thousands of Americans and Iraqis, wounds of Americans and Iraqis for a lifetime. Every reason given, publicly at least, has turned out not to be true. My question is, why did you really want to go to war?
I think your premise, and all due respect to your question and to you as a lifelong journalist, is that, I didn't want war. To assume I wanted war is just flat wrong, Helen, and all due respect.
No, I would disagree, Helen.
Helen, I find it really unfortunate.
So the Palestinians are now being bankrupted, Helen. What's happening?
Many White House press secretaries were also on the receiving end of her tough questions. Dee Dee Myers was press secretary to President Bill Clinton.
She saw her job as making sure that you were telling the facts like they were, that you were credible, that you were reliable, that you were thorough.
Thomas acknowledged that her no-nonsense attitude came at a price.
I think a lot of presidents have been not afraid, but they don't want to tangle with me in terms of my questions, so they're not very happy to call on me. But I feel that we are representing the American people who don't get a chance to ask the president a question.
Although many regard Thomas as having paved the way for women journalists, she said most working women still have a long way to go.
I think that women still have to achieve true equality at the workplace.
While Helen Thomas will be remembered as a pioneer in the White House press corps, her own hope was to be remembered for something else.
I think that I did seek the truth, painful as it is, and justice for everyone.
Helen Thomas retired in the summer of 2010 amid an uproar over her widely publicized remarks criticizing Jews and Israel. She later apologized for saying Israelis should get out of Palestine and Jews should go home to Germany, Poland, or the U.S. Despite the apology, the incident tarnished the reputation of this pioneering American journalist and brought her long career to an end. Julie Tabo, VOA News, Washington.